Menstrual cups are becoming more and more popular all the time as an alternative to pads and tampons, but what is it like to use one for the long haul? Well, I've been using mine for 7 years, so today I'm going to tell you just that. So if you've been hanging around on my channel for a while, then you will already know that I use a menstrual cup because I made a video about it like 4 years ago, but 4 years is a long time, and I thought it was time for me to do an update. And you might be thinking, why now? Why 7 years? Why is this the time to do the update? Well, there's a couple reasons for that. First, a very practical one, I have decided to replace my menstrual cup that I've had for 7 years with a new one. So this seemed like a good time to talk about it because I have a fresh new menstrual cup I can show you, and not my old one that is stained from 7 years of use and looks not the most attractive to show on camera. Also thought it might be kind of gross to some people. I don't know. So I thought now that I have a new one, this would be a good time to revisit this topic again and give you an update. And then the other reason I wanted to talk about it now is because menstrual cups are a lot more popular and a lot more widely known than they were when I made that first video. When I first made that video, I didn't really see anyone talking about menstrual cups. When I first started using my menstrual cup, pretty much no one that I knew, I think no one that I knew what they were familiar with them. It was like this whole new world. So because I came, into the menstrual cup scene, I guess, kind of early on, there wasn't a lot of chatter. In that first video, I did do a lot of explaining of like, what is this thing and why would you use it? Because it was a totally foreign concept, I think, for the majority of people. But now menstrual cups are everywhere. I mean, you can find them, I think, at like Target and Walmart. They are something that I think most people have probably at least heard of, especially younger people. And I know a lot of people personally who use them now, either because I told them about it or they've just come across them. And I see videos on them all the time of people doing like first impressions, trying menstrual cups. So there's a lot more awareness about them. And so I thought this is a time to make a little update because you might be hearing a lot about menstrual cups, but you might not really know what it's like to use one long term. So with all that said, let's talk about the actual menstrual cup. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go into as much detail about, why you might want to use one of these or what this is and all that kind of stuff, because I do feel like it's more common knowledge and there's also a lot of videos that talk about that. But really quickly, if you have no idea, a menstrual cup is a reusable menstrual product. So you use it instead of a pad or a tampon. It's internal, so you insert it and then it catches the fluid, the blood and mucus and all the stuff from your period. Then you can empty it, clean it, and use it again. So they're about 20 to 30 bucks, and they are really nice because you are saving money because you're not buying the products all the time, and they also help to reduce waste because you're not throwing away all of those products every single month. So what I want to talk about first is my overall experience with the menstrual cup and why I love it so much after using it for 7 years, because obviously I love it if I've been using it for 7 years and I just bought a new one. But I want to talk about specifically why I really enjoy it, and then also give you some tips if you are a newbie to menstrual cups or you're thinking about getting one. Just some things that I think help make it easier and maybe some things to look out for. Okay, so let's open this bad boy up. So this is the Diva Cup. There's lots of different brands of menstrual cups. This was just the first one that I came across when I first bought my first menstrual cup, and I like it. It's also, I think, probably the easiest one to find. You can find it a lot of places. I'll leave a link to below the video if you want to check it out. But it's the most widely available one, and it's just what I'm familiar with. There might be other ones that would be better for you. I don't really know, but I've been using this one, and it's been working. So it comes with, a little storage baggie to keep it in when it's not in use. There's some directions in here. We'll just throw that stuff over there. And then, oh, more paper. I'm just gonna start throwing boxes. It'll be fine, I'll clean it up later. But this is the actual menstrual cup. So the first reason I really love the menstrual cup after 7 years of using it is that it really changes the dynamics of your period. And what I mean by that is, prior to having the menstrual cup, a big part of my period was kind of always thinking about my period and period products and all that kind of stuff. So you're kind of looking out for when it's gonna start, and then you have to, once you're on your period, you have to kind of do this mental math in your head as far as packing pads or packing tampons or whatever. Like, I'm gonna be away from home for this long, I'm gonna need to change it this often probably, let's throw in a couple extra as well. And then also just having that on your mind each day, especially with tampons, because it is so important to change those within a certain time frame for health reasons. It was kind of always running in the back of my mind, okay, it's been this many hours, I need to change it now, don't forget to do that. It's kind of just always that kind of background noise when you're on your period. And then also you have to be thinking about, you know, purchasing products, making sure you're stocked up, making sure you have the right variety of different things, making sure you have space for all those things. Because at least for me, when I bought pads and tampons, I had a few different types of each one depending on what I was using it for, what time of my period I would be using it, all that kind of stuff. So it's just a lot of mental energy that you spend thinking about your period and thinking about all these period products. When you have the menstrual cup, that all goes away because you can leave this in for up to 12 hours. So you only have to change it a couple times a day unless you overflow, which I've never had a problem with. My period is about 5 days long, and even on the heaviest days, you know, the 12-hour thing works out fine. So with that, you know, being able to keep it in for 12 hours, you just don't have to think about it as much. You just kind of emptying it becomes part of your routine, and it's not something that you have to think about throughout the day. You don't have to think about packing things or buying things or anything like that because you're going to reuse the same one every month, and it just takes all of that mental energy and you don't have to use that mental energy anymore. And so it saves up your brain during that time, so you don't have that background noise always going on in the back of your head. But also I feel like it just makes your period much more enjoyable and almost like it's not happening. Like, obviously you still have to deal with it, but it's so much reduced that I think it makes being on your period much more enjoyable and as close to being like any other day as possible. Another thing I really like about the menstrual cup is not having to buy all of those products, because I have not had to buy a pad or a tampon for 7 years. I haven't had to go down those aisles, I haven't had to spend the money, I haven't had to take the time. None of that stuff. And so it's been really great as far as saving money, because when I first got this, you know, like I said, no one I knew even knew what this was. So it was a little bit of a step out on a ledge. I was like, I'm gonna spend like 20 or 30 bucks on this thing, and what if I don't even like it and I decide not to use it? But I can tell you that, you know, for me, it's been well worth it, because that 20 or 30 bucks, whatever it was, over 7 years is much less than I would have spent in this time on pads and tampons. And then on top of all of that, the saving money aspect, there's also the aspect of reducing waste. When I think about all of the packaging and the actual pads and tampons themselves and all that stuff that I would have produced or used up in that time, that's a lot. 7 years worth of menstrual products is a lot of waste. It's a lot of garbage, and I've been able to eliminate that because I've been using the menstrual cup. So that's why I love the menstrual cup and why I recommend it to basically anyone who will listen to me. But now let's talk about tips for newbies, because when you do start out, there is going to be a bit of a learning curve, just like anything. And I kind of think of it as being kind of like the first time you use a tampon. You know, you've never done it before, you don't know exactly what to expect, you're trying to figure it out. It's a little nerve-wracking, and I think it's kind of the same thing with this. Like, you do have to learn a little bit to make it happen, but once you figure it out, it's super convenient, it's super easy, and it's not a problem or something that even crosses your mind once you've got it figured out. So with that in mind, let's talk about the practical aspects of this if you are using one of these for the first time. So the first thing is inserting the menstrual cup. You gotta relax, obviously. You can't be tensed up or it's just gonna be more difficult. And also, I think it's easier if you do it sitting on the toilet. I see some people talk about like standing in the shower or squatting. I don't find that a very easy way to do it at all. I think sitting on the toilet is the best way. And then there are two main folds you can use. You can do this kind of like U fold, or you can do the punch down fold, which is where you kind of make it like this triangle shape. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. I think this one is much better. It's the one I personally use. So yeah. Inserting, I think the punch down fold, and then sitting on the toilet is the easiest way to do it. So the next thing that we should talk about is removing the menstrual cup. And this is the thing that I see most often, especially in first impressions videos, as being something that's really difficult for people. And a lot of times people will be like, I was in the bathroom for like 15 to 20 minutes, I couldn't get it out, I couldn't figure out what was going on, it was this big struggle. And I was the same way the first time that I had to remove my menstrual cup, the first time I used it. But the thing is, there's one little key, one little thing that you need to know, and if you do this, then it's super easy to remove and there's no struggle whatsoever. So if you think about it. So you've got the menstrual cup inside and it's created a seal against your body, right? So, and that's just, you know, so it can stay in place, nothing's leaking around the edge, everything should be going into the cup. So if it's got this seal and this kind of suction and then you're just trying to pull down, it doesn't want to come off because it's got this seal against your body. So it doesn't want to come out. And then, you know, then you're fighting with it in the bathroom for 20 minutes. So instead, what you want to do is just use a finger to push against the inside of the cup or the outside of the cup, and that will break the seal, and then it'll come out really easily. And you'll know when it happens, you'll be able to tell because the suction will be gone and it will just come out right away and it won't be any trouble. So, you know, finger against the side, just give a little push to break that seal, and then you shouldn't have any trouble pulling it out. Now, with that said, again, there is a learning curve, so the first couple times you do it, you still might have to think about it, or it might not feel super comfortable, but as you use the menstrual cup more and more, it becomes more and more second nature, just like anything else, and then eventually you won't have to think about it at all. Another thing a lot of people wonder about or worry about is leaking. Now, I haven't really had a trouble with leaking, but I won't say that it never happens. The times it does happen, though, it's for one key reason, and that's I haven't put the menstrual cup in properly to create that seal against my body. So you got to make sure, you know, you folded it to insert it. You have to make sure that it pops open. That's why in the directions, a lot of times they say like to rotate it or something, just to make sure that it's opened up and it's sealed against your body, because you really need that to prevent leaks from happening. So I won't say that it never leaks ever. It has happened to me before, but one, I know that it's happening pretty early on usually. Usually I haven't left the house yet, so it's not a big deal. And it's just because something with inserting it isn't quite right, and I just reinsert it and then it's usually fine. That's actually one of the reasons I decided to get a new one, is because in addition to the old one looking pretty gross, I felt like I was having more instances of it not making the seal right away and me having to reinsert it and fool with it. And so that to me was like, okay, I've been thinking about replacing this anyway, and now I'm starting to have problems that I hadn't really had before. It's been 7 years. They say 5 to 10 years, so I'm kind of right in that sweet spot. So I think it's time to get a new one. Something else a lot of people worry about is emptying in public, because, you know, that's a whole other thing because you got to wash this thing and all that kind of stuff. The truth is, for me, this is something I rarely ever have to do. I've probably only had to do it a couple times in the 7 years. And that's because as long as you're not, you know, filling this up till it's overflowing, you can leave it in for 12 hours. And so for me, and I think for most people, you're probably gonna be home every 12 hours. So it's really not that big of a deal, because you're just very rarely in that situation where you've been home for so long and you're gonna have to empty this in public. Now, the couple times that I have had to do it, it's been more of an issue, again, with the leaking thing of it wasn't placed properly and I have to reinsert it, so it wasn't even really full. And in that case, I just kind of like wiped it out with some toilet tissue and then put it back in, and it wasn't a big deal. I didn't go to like the public sink and then try to go back to the stall and all that kind of stuff. So as long as you have a pretty typical schedule, you're probably not, or very rarely you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have to worry about emptying this in public at all. And let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about using a menstrual cup, or maybe if there's something in the video that I missed talking about that you were really wondering about, because I'm happy to answer your questions. And if you happen to be new here and you want more healthy eating tips and nutrition info and videos like this one, then make sure that you subscribe, because eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle really doesn't have to be complicated, and I want to show you how to do it. And if you want to watch some more videos, I have a couple linked over here that you might like. Thanks for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.